Hi everyone, welcome to yet another podcast where we deep dive into the intersection of technology, innovation, and fashion e-commerce industry. Today we are thrilled to have a very special guest with us, Suchandrim Sarkar, software engineer at Myntra. Hi Suchandrim, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you?
All good. All. Thank you for joining us today. And yeah, before we start off with the whole podcast, could you just take us through a quick journey of your career path into the world of technology, how you started, and all that stuff?
Yeah, sure. So I am a BTech in computer science, and I graduated back in 2016 from a college in Kolkata called Techno India Salt Lake. Maybe some of you have heard. So that's where it started. My love for tech started, and then from there, after graduating from 2016, I joined a startup in Hyderabad called Mutual Mobile. I've always wanted to be a mobile developer. I like that in college, and then I got that opportunity in Mutual Mobile to be a dedicated mobile app developer. Stayed there for 5 years, built countless apps, and then after staying there for 5 years, I presently work at Myntra. I've been working here about 2.5 years. I work in the Myntra app team. So basically, I work on the app, and alongside that, I also build and publish and monetize apps of my own. I have about 3 apps, and they have about over half a million in downloads in total. Yeah, that's the brief of it.
Wow, quite a terrific, you can say, career path that you had, right? So before we
Thank you.
go into deep dive into the whole bit by bits of the whole thing, I'd like to take like you can say a quick roll back into time and go to your schooling days. Like how were
Mhm.
you as a school kid? Like you were one of the top, you can say, performers or an average student, and which were your favorite subjects for that matter?
Good question. So back in school, I was not the top student, but I was a good student. So I think most of the teachers had kept saying one thing, which was a very nice kid, but is not performing to its full potential. I think that is what every teacher said. But yeah, school was fun. I was always good in studies. Not the best, not the topper and all, but I was good. Like maybe not in the top five, top 8 or 10, but probably in the top 10 or top 15 in my class. It was good. It was fun. My favorite subject kind of varied differently. So before class 10, it was probably I liked history quite a lot. History and civics for some reason I really liked it. I still do. I am a history nerd still. History, politics, and I really enjoy it. And but after 11, 12, when I took up sciences, I always wanted to take up sciences because I love computers and everything. I really liked physics for some reason. It was difficult, but I enjoyed it. Computers was one, but computers was not a main subject, so I would say physics. That would be school for me. Yeah.
So was there any, you can say, but in particular the interest in you as a techie right from the school, or something that sparked later
Mm.
in your college days?
Yeah, I can actually pinpoint to the point. So I always like tech, right? My dad, for example, always was also into tech, right? So we at that point there were feature phones and all. So I always liked tech, but I think my first introduction to tech as like this is what I want to do was after like Android as an OS was just started to come out, and that was after around when I was in the 11th standard. When I got to the 11th standard, I got an Android phone. It was Android 2.1 at that time. It was called Eclair. It was
Which
a Samsung.
which phone was
Yeah,
that for that matter?
it was a Samsung Galaxy Pop. Yeah,
Pop.
it was.
Okay.
Yeah. Like so, jumping from a feature phone, from a small keypad phone to that, it was amazing. Like it was like a whole new world for me, and that is where my love for tech and that's what I wanted to started. And I also got my first proper laptop to work with in my 11th standard as well. I started to learn to code the basic stuff. So 11, 12 was like the setting stone for it, and it kind of kicked off in college. So yeah, always like tech. Always did from kids the new gadgets that came out. When I just study very hard to get a new gadget that my dad used to say, like, get score this much, we'll get this gadget and all. So it was a overall process over the years. So yeah.
So as you mentioned, like you can say a very early adopter of Android. So I also was
Mm-hmm.
one of them. Like I had a Galaxy
Mm.
Y. I guess the whole series came out in the
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
trade,
Galaxy Mini,
right? Galaxy,
Galaxy
yeah.
Mini, Galaxy Pop, Galaxy Y came out at one go. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So were you also like engaged into building stuff? Like I believe that was an era where a lot of I believe you must have heard about XDA developers, where people used to
Mm-hmm.
make custom things, custom apps for, because Android was very new in that whole era.
Yes,
So
yes,
did
yes,
you
yes, yes.
also make some projects on that, like tweaking the
No,
Android a little bit, something?
yeah. So I always knew what XG because I always trying. So after I got my second phone probably in my first year of college, right? So that led me my first phone, and I could experiment with it. So experimentation phase was always there. I started building around second year of college. So second year of college, I my teacher at probably one of my most influential people in my life from a tech point of view. She said you got to pick up something, right? So I pick up web dev, I pick up something like that, and then once I picked up Android, I loved it, and that's when I started building. Probably on second year of college, but but with custom ROMs and all, I always experimenting with them, trying to understand from as a user point of view, right? From school itself, yeah. Yeah.
So you must have also struggled like putting Cyanogen OS
Oh
into.
yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
all
So
remember those days.
yeah, I bricked my phone once. I did brick,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then at that was a time where internet was not as freely available. So I had like 1 GB of data, and I had to watch a YouTube video within that and try to
Get the
fix
stock
it.
room back.
Yeah. It was quite some time back. So yeah, it was fun. It was exciting. That part of thing is not as exciting today as we know.
Correct,
But yeah, it
correct.
was at one point like we traded security and better usability for this, which I'm not a big, which I'm fine with, but still, it was a different kind of fun back then. So yeah.
Correct, correct. So yeah, moving back, like coming back to the
Mm.
college days, right? Did you
Mm.
also take part in, like, did you also participate in competitions, hackathons, or something,
Oh
events in your college, like events?
yeah. So the first turning point of my career, that is today, was my first year. So I'm from Technical Salt Lake, and they have a huge tech fest, right? Called Edge, right? And then the prize money was huge and everything, and so I took part in first year, and they have a lot of events for the major coding contests, right? They have major coding contests. There's something called GeekOR where you it was you write code, and your code is to compete against the other. Multiple ways of solving it. We have bug smash codes as well. You're given a piece of. So I took part in the major all of them, and the major the actual coding contest where our college has never won in the 7-8 years of history, right? It was always the better colleges like Jadavpur and Shibpur used to win. So that year somehow I practiced hard and I got the first prize, and that too without a teammate in my final round. And it was amazing. Like everyone came and congratulated. Like, okay, this is something that I love. That's where my love for technology came. And since then, all the entire 4 years I've taken part, and I've also been involved in arranging the tech fest. It was always all 4 years. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess you also like did quite a few internships during your last year of college, if I'm not wrong.
Yes,
And
yes. So.
how did that help you, prepare for the jobs, full-time jobs that
Hmm.
you were going to apply post college?
Yes, so internship was necessary. I'll tell you why. Because right now, because back in 2015, 16, just out of college, getting an mobile dev job was almost unheard of. But generally, what would happen, you used to work in something like Java and something like that, and then you move to Android. So it was very difficult to. And I got a couple of job offers from campus placements as well in third year as well, and third year, fourth year, and such. So, but none of them were mobile dev jobs. Really good jobs, no questions there, but not mobile. So I picked up internships in my last year. I had to convince my college as well to give me so that I don't have to come to colleges. I learned Android dev while I was there and learning from other people as well. It gave me an exposure to how the corporate world works, because how corporate works and how you are in college is so completely different. So I'd say that gave me a head start. It looked good in my resume as well, and in my later interviews where I finally joined in Mutual Mobile, the interview was a much smoother experience because I had worked with it, and a couple of things you just learn when you're building an app in the real world, and you do not get by building simple notes app, which helps but doesn't really give you a full picture of how the actual world apps and everything work.
So
That's
just before we move on to the next segment of interview preps, I just like a single piece of advice that you would have for the students who are in the third and the last year of their college and who are not still taking the thing seriously. What is something that a piece of advice that you would give to them so that their career looks better off when they exit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the thing is, couple of you see, you need to be. I'll say from my perspective, I was always involved in tech, so my love for tech came naturally. So when you are working in tech and you're working in such a, how do I say, competitive field, one advantage that you can always have is if you love what you are doing, right? Tech is something that you can really love. So many problems, and also the thing is, unlike other things where it has so many avenues from back end, front end, mobile, video games, whatever, and there it is. So, and the barrier to enter right now is so much, it's so easier. You should at least by first, second, third, or fourth year, you should pick up something naturally, not because your exam, not because your college has forced you to, or not because your job, or it will help in your job. Just pick up something naturally that helps, and then I think that will be a big advantage when you're giving interviews, because you learn something out of curiosity or something naturally, rather than being forced into. That is one thing that I would say. And second thing, have, I think third year maybe a little bit late for that, but second year would be make some good friends. I'm still friends with my college mates. Then they were extremely techy as well. We all took part in it. So if you're surrounding people with something like that who are passionate in technology on it, it's a huge advantage, and that has been a huge play. So these two are the tips that I would give. So yeah.
Great take on that question. So
Mm,
moving forward, right,
mm,
like the very important segment for the students who are looking forward to in this whole podcast is interview prep, right?
mm,
A lot of students still face this issue, like they're you can say clueless, or you can say puzzled of what to start off when we talk about interview prep or particularly applying
mm,
for a job. So how did
mm.
you prep for your first tech job interview, and what were the things that you ensure that you had in place, or the things you can say, like what I'd love to hear about is in terms of technical skills, of interpersonal skills, of soft skills, that you ensure that you were at par for this interview.
Yeah, sure. So while I was I'll there are two phases. The first interviews were college class campus placements, right? Those are very straightforward that you would expect in college, right? So for that, it's a little bit straightforward in the sense that you prepare. You should see problems as a problem, as something that you would like to solve, right? Say DSA is what you would generally get asked when you're out of college, right? That changes while you move ahead in the career, but when you're out of college, generally because you do not have much specific tech, you generally go with DSA, and I think that's a good way of seeing it. What I did was basically did not solve that many problems, but I picked up problem and try to understand it and try to find a pattern to it, right? Like, this kind of problems is solved this way, this kind of. And also another thing that people need to realize is it's completely fine if you do not solve the problem to the end, right? A couple of interviews that I've given where I've gotten job interviews was I never reached the final solution. What a good interviewer, that also depends if the interviewer is good. I have had bad interviewers as well, but good interviewers will be, the interview will feel more like a conversation. Like if someone is asking you a question, like how to solve it, you have a conversation. You do not get a question and just not interact with that. If you're having a conversation, they will see how you're approaching a problem. So do not just concentrate on reaching the end. Think about it. You just think out loud. A lot of things are going in your head, so instead of keeping in your mind, just say something like, I can go this way, this approach may work, what do you think, and keep it in a conversational way. That has worked tremendously for me. Multiple times I haven't reached the final solution, but they like the conversation, and also they're judging you based on your interpersonal skills as well, right? So if you're having a conversation, you're fun to talk to, you're nice, you're fun to interact with, that gives you a major advantage. Solving problems and all, you already know how to do it, right? Solve a lot of problems and all, but a couple of things that you should be doing is don't get tensed, turn that interview to a conversational aspect, and it should feel like you're having a conversation. That person should enjoy talking to you, interact back and everything, and think out loud. I think that works. I have never solved DSA problem like many people do, 100, 200, 300, 500 questions in lead code. I don't even solve lead code problems, and that has its problems, but hasn't stopped me from moving up in my career. So yeah.
Okay, got it. So yeah, basically it is saying that rather focus on the core fundamentals of what you are learning,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you should be able to explain, like, have and basically have a conversation rather than it looks like a question answer session. It should look rather feel like conversation with the interviewer,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
So
That helps a little bit. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Moving on.
yeah,
Yeah.
so like any you can say any memorable or challenging intake question that you still remember that has occurred, like one situation of an the whole journey for you till now.
Yeah, so one of the things, so that is later in my interview, that is later in my career. So one of the advantages of, so I built many apps, right? Even my first app that I built it because, like I said, it was difficult to get into the Android field at back then. So I delayed my joining by 2 or 3 months so that I could build an app and showcase it. So I have been doing that. I've since then I built the three apps in total. One of quite a lot of interviews. What happens is they expect they will go do a DSA round, but they see my resume and see, oh, this guy has built an app that has 500,000 downloads. So it goes through that. So one of my interviews, I remember, uh, he took that app and then he brought his own problems to it, how would you solve this and everything. So it was a really nice way of solving it because it was real world experience and something that I was good at. So they would ask that, why did you do this, this could have done that, this could have done, you could have done this. Then I explained it to him, like why this was done, because so that's one of the things. And any interview, almost 50% of interviews move from DSA to say the apps that I build, the projects that I have worked on, and those are a much better experience, and even experience for me and a better experience for them as well. And almost all of them I have cleared that round and moved on to the next one. So in summary, anytime that I'm talking about the things that I have built, I'm fully involved in, and when you talk about that, it's much more interesting, it's much more interesting interview, and it has been beneficial for me. So yeah.
So you have established here that personal projects or port and having good projects on your portfolios are, you can say, beneficial to you in interviews, right? But like still again on this thing, right? There is some confusion among students of what type of projects or what type of
Mm-hmm.
things to include on resume. Either of the
Mm-hmm.
times they keep on, they come up and add everything that they have built from the smallest to-do app, task management app, which are already there, some CRUD apps into their resumes. And at sometimes like they just mention things without
Mm-hmm.
any proper documentation or a project demo link or something. So could you just
Mm-hmm.
take throw some light on that, like what type of
Mm-hmm.
projects should they include in their portfolios? So that, as you mentioned, right, you just had three good apps on your portfolio, and then
Mm-hmm.
it helped you a lot into clearing multiple rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are just,
Yeah.
you get a floater policy, okay, I can just skip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so see, 10 years back or when I graduated, having a working to do app or working notes app or say something was enough, right? Because no one was doing that, right? But the scenario right now has changed. Everyone can build a to do app. It's not because way too so many people are in that market right now trying to get the same limited amount of job. Just building a to do app today, unfortunately, is not enough. And you can have a lot of good projects, but as long as it's not used, it is not used by people, it can be, I'll get to that, it's not great. So you can have a really well built to do app that shows amazing technology, but if it is not, hasn't got traction, it has 0 stars and everything like that on GitHub, no downloads and all, people, that user was not, that interviewer is not going to check out and code that you have written, right? They have limited time. So what I would suggest right now, and I keep suggesting them to others, is build projects and products that people would actually use, right? Say what I took an approach was, I built apps that normal users would build, which means that I cannot build a normal to do app and publish in the Play Store. Nothing's gonna happen then. What would happen? But what I did was, I built apps that are comparable to other competitors in the market, that is actual commercial products, and build a competitor to them, and have so my present app right now has almost I think 50,000 monthly active users, which is quite big for a niche product. So I have to build something like that, or take the different way out, because that also involves a lot of build open source projects that actually are helpful, and see a problem that you are seeing, right, and build that, and so that other people who are searching for it, I'll come and use it and probably raise PRs, give stars. You need to have this to either take the open source route and build open source projects that are usable and people are using, or build products that are at par with other competitors in the market. Just building a to-do app and will not cut, unfortunately.
So I guess that gives the clarity to our audience that to ensure that what type of product you are building or what type of
Mm.
app you are building, it can be simple, but it has to solve some you can
Mm-hmm.
say, so
Real world
it has
use
to solve
case.
some problem. Yeah, real world use
Yeah.
case. So you can
Yeah,
either start off with building some for tapri wala, chai wala, or some
yeah.
pani puri wala, but yeah, it should be helping to the society, and that
Mm-hmm.
that adds more value to your whole portfolio. So moving to your
Yeah.
first job, right?
Mm.
So how did your expectations of working in the tech compare to your first tech job? So like you must be having some expectation, okay, my first job in person job is going to be like this, and how was
Mm.
that expectation versus reality check for you?
Yeah. So my experience overall has been great, right? I'm probably lucky or whatever it is. My job experiences has been great. My expectation and reality I think my reality has actually crossed expectation. My expectation, this, but that is the experience point of view. What I would be building, people that we interact with, things that I would be building. That has actually beyond experience in my first job, and overall work towards 5 years. What did not match, what was really surprising was how college and tech, how tech you up the tech problem you approach in college is so different, and how you are approaching when you're working with real people and real clients, real engineers. How you architect your product, how you build the product, how you interact with other people, how you document code, how you structure your code is so well organized, and everything has a reasoning. That was very surprising. So I had to learn. So even though I knew the basics of Android and I could build an Android app at that point, I had to relearn a lot of things on how to structure your code, how to so that it is it is reusable. My first app that I built, if I go and see the code, I will have no clue. But the second app that I built just 2 years later, with this learning, I can still go back and understand what that code did. That 2 years, that learning was surprising, and it was an eye-opening experience for me. Yeah.
So I believe you started your whole journey as a full time, I guess, as an associate
Mm.
engineer, and from that moving to the level of tech lead. So
Mm.
multiple position change, and over the year
Mm.
of I guess almost a 5 years of experience in that
Yeah.
company, right?
Mm.
So if you could just take us on a quick tour of your roles, responsibilities, challenges that you faced, and a few memorable projects that you dealt with in your first job.
Yeah, sure. So my career in my first company was a logarithm, was a scale like this. I'll tell you why. So the first 2 years, I realized there was a lot to learn, right? So many things and everything. But I was also very proactive. So first year was a completely learning experience for me, understanding how to understand legacy code, how to build on top of it, and everything, right? By the first year, I realized that this is what I need to do, this is what I concentrated on, I worked hard and everything. Second year, I realized that no, I'm learning, let's get more responsibilities. And so my second year, went ahead and told my manager and my engineering lead at that point, like, I'm doing this, I need more responsibilities, which is I proactively went ahead. I think that helped quite a bit. I told them directly that I need this, I want to lead a project, I want to build a project from the ground up. And my company Mutual Mobile was extremely helpful that way. They listened to me in the sense that after 1.5 years or 2 years, I got a smaller project. It was a very smaller project, and asked me to lead it, right? This is something they find out everything, and then I delivered it way before time. They were very happy with the work, and that's when my career got kick-started. So I got my first promotion after 1.5 or 2 years, and all my rest 4 promotions were in a span of 3 years, right? I started, and that's where I shined. I realized that I'm good at understanding a problem and delivering a solution. So that was a premium service. So Mutual Mobile was a premium service based company, which means that we build a product from ground up, but we also have, our clients were extremely premium. I probably may not be able to talk about the clients, of course. I think there's an NDA associated, but extremely premium, and products that you have used, I am pretty sure that everyone who would be listening has worked on something, but has used something that I have worked on. But that helped, and built a lot of from ground up. From beginning, I started as breaking down the problems, and then I started interacting with clients by the third and fourth year, and by the last year and fourth and fifth year, I was involved right from the beginning. Means interacting with the clients, understanding their requirements, and delivering the product. The entire thing I was responsible for. So that's how the growth kind of happened. So yeah.
So yeah, as like first of all, remarkable success, like as you mentioned, right? First promotion after 1.5 years, and all the four in
Mhm.
the span of 3 years. That itself
Yeah.
says a lot.
Mhm.
But I believe we all talk about the achievements, right? People see, okay, there's a lot of the guy shining, he's achieving a lot of things, but of course there will be a lot of setbacks, a lot of failures,
Mhm.
lot of stress that nobody talks about. So I'd like to
Mhm.
take a moment and discuss about that, right? So was there any kind of setbacks or failures, and how did you overcome that? How do you handle those moments where like you have
Yeah,
something
yeah,
planned but it does not
yeah,
work that
definitely.
way?
Yeah, sure. Fortunately, the career path has been good for me 5 years, right? But what really impacted me was stress. Generally, I'm good at handling stress, especially stress that I can control. But I remember the first 2 or 3 years was I was working probably 15, 16 hours a day. And initially, it was, I remember in 2017, it was probably the hottest year in Hyderabad, and I was not making much money back then, right? So we didn't have AC in my room. It was hell. So I'll tell. So at that point, I remember I was working on my app, which working on two projects at Mutual Mobile, and I also helping a friend out on their app, right? So I was working 16, 17 hours a day, and that took a huge toll on my health. I gained weight. I lost a little bit of hair. I had hair loss and all. I enjoyed it. I'm not saying it was extremely fun time, but I was checking. I was cashing something that my body could not just provide it, right? I After 2.5 years I realized how tired I was, and that's when I realized I need, just because I can do it doesn't mean that I should do it, right? So after the second year, I started taking up as my app stabilized. I realized I need to make changes. I took a break and then build my second app, and then yeah, my friend that I was helping out, I stopped doing that, and so yeah, stress was the biggest. I'd say Achilles heel for me. I had gotten sick out of stress. I was just exhausted, right? For the first 2.5 years, I would not probably suggest that. Fun time, but probably impacted my health at that point.
But
So
at
yeah.
Indian it all pays off, right? All the
It means
nights and
yes,
everything.
yes, yes. Yeah, I mean,
it's
probably I would have
it's a
gotten
trade-off
everything through.
basically
Yeah,
in
it
that
is.
end.
It is. Yeah, it is. Probably it has helped my career, but I remember it was not a great time from a mental health and physical health point of view. Yeah.
I guess that is now the story of every developer out there, because the
Yeah, yeah,
industry is
yeah.
like that right now. Like there's a lot of competition, a lot of you
Mhm.
can say fighting going on out there. So you have to
Mm.
push your limits every day.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, yes. Like previous for me, that was optional. I took it because I wanted to. But now I think the way that market is, you just have to do it, I guess. But I can tell you, if you are doing it, take care of your health, and probably it will pay off down the line. Like because when you're early in your career, right, lot less things depend on you. You are more free to do stuff and more free to take risks. You are more. You do not have things that you need to care about, lesser things to care about. So if you can, and you can do it in the first 2 to 3 years of your career, give your absolute best. Probably overwork, but probably that will help you out later, because you cannot overwork and do the same thing when you are in your 30s or 40s and that much down the career. Definitely, for sure.
Got it. So now, like I've heard a lot of times from you that you focus a lot on building your own apps. That is where
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to take a moment and talk about that now. So I've heard about three of your apps. As I mentioned, I tried one of those last night. Quite
Mm-hmm.
a, you can say, a memorable experience for me. I plan to install it again and use it to the full potential. And yeah, I realize you have a mood tracker, a launcher, minimalist launcher, and a music player. So I'd like
Mm-hmm.
you to take this opportunity to talk about those. And I have a few questions about that, like how do you
Mm-hmm.
manage and how everything came to life.
Yeah, sure. Each app I did. So the fun part of it is, each app had a particular requirement that I needed at that point in my career, and that was not related to a problem that I'm trying to solve. I'll explain it what I mean. The first app that I built was a music player. I built it because, like I mentioned, it was very difficult to get Android related jobs just out of college in back in 2015 and 16. So I need to dazzle my resume as such. So what I did was I built the app. I had a joining at around July or August. I remember July 2016 probably, and I messaged the whoever was my person to email them that I have some personal emergencies. I like to extend it to November. He said that you would get probably mediocre projects if you do, but I took the risk. I told my mom and dad was extremely supportive that way, like, do whatever you want, you have worked hard, you can do it. So that's the risk that I took. 2 months I built the app. I also freelanced at that point because I needed the money. I did that. I remember I published the app in October 15th, 2016, and I had a job offer from Mutual Mobile on October 25th. So that helped me. So that is what I built. And then it was not even a revenue generating app. I was still building it. I was just happy to get downloads. I was seeing the download graph going up, number of users getting good reviews. And then the director of tech at Mutual Mobile said, why don't you monetize it? I was like, monetize it? I don't think people are going to pay for it. He saw my app and like, I'm pretty sure people are going to pay for it. And then, so what I did was I made a couple of features like themes and all free, premium, and then put it behind a $3 one-time payment. And somehow over that small $3 over the last 4 or 5 years, for what 6 years, has made me almost 15 lakhs in profit.
Wow.
Just yeah, like
Now we're just talking about a music player, is it?
Yeah. And I know students right now who will be watching this will think they who download, but 2015, 16 people used to actually download MP3 files, put in their phone, create playlists. And so my app was very unique. Yeah, my app was very unique in such a way that it automatically created playlists. It solved a lot of problems. It automatically fetched lyrics as well. So it brought in that much money as well. It was surprising. And that was one. That's why I built the first app. It's good. It was an extremely learning process. I like to add that I also built 2 or 3 apps in college that I have unpublished just to learn. I built games. I built a game engine as well. Probably we can talk about that later. But then moving on, once I learned about how to actually build apps professionally, I built my second app which is a mood tracker. So the problem that I wanted to solve was there were mood trackers in the market, but you had to open the app, go to a couple of clicks. By the time it probably your mood changes. So what I did was I built an app where you can just pull down a notification, click a button, and your mood would get recorded at that point with the location, time, and everything. It was a niche app. It was also monetized at probably $3 or $5 for a lifetime purchase for a premium version. That has bought me around, I think, 6 or 7 lakhs over the last couple of years. But the best part about that was it somehow got very popular in Brazil, and also these 2 apps are available in 14 different languages. I actually talked to the users and I mailed them like, would you like to help me out? I'll give you a premium for that, and they helped me out. It was a lot of work, but I did, and it got popular in Brazil. And then a couple of psychologists emailed me like, I've been suggesting my app to my patients. Can you build this feature? So I started working with them, and it was really nice. I used to get mails from users saying that this has been extremely helpful for my mental health. I really appreciate it and everything. And I like that I thought that things that I build are actually bringing positive impact on people. That was a really good feeling. And then once COVID hit, I took a break. I thought that I was just building apps. I actually had a YouTube channel where I made videos on video games and all. And then last year as well, I built my third app, which is a Oasis Minimalist Launcher that helps you decrease your phone usage. That has also brought in significant amount of money. I don't want to say the number, but beyond my expectation, it has been working well. But I'm also building it professionally as well, more professionally with ads and everything. So yeah, that's it.
So before, for all the students who are curious of how those apps look, so we are going to leave the links for you guys in the description down, so you can go and check them out. And if you get a subscription, for sure I'm going to get one, at least for the launcher that I've been using, right? So moving ahead, right, I'd like to ask you, this is a curious question, how can you discuss about the process of bringing an app to life, from the concept to launch? And how do you decide on features, like what to put in the first launch and what to keep for later?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So the problem with developers, I would like to say, is there's something called developer bias, right? And I have faced it myself. What I mean by that is, just because you put a lot of effort into a feature, it is a technical marvel into it, doesn't mean that users will like it. I'll give you a small example, right? In my first music player app, there was a feature, I had lyrics, right? And I remember, if you guys remember, there was something called floating chat heads. So you can minimize the Facebook Messenger app, but floating chat, you could click on it and it will open anywhere over the app. I really like that feature. So what I did was, I built a floating lyrics, right? It was an extremely technically marvel at that point. If the music that you're listening to, you can minimize it, and you can there'll be a floating, and click on it, will show the lyrics to it, right? And then I showed my friend do it. I published it, and then everything, it was not getting good traction. And then my friend tell me that, why would I want to do that? Like, why would I go through Facebook and list and watch the lyrics of a song that I am listening? And that opened my eyes. Like, yeah, so that's what I keep saying as a developer. Do not have a developer bias. You need to be a product manager first while you're building. If you're building an open source project, be an engineer, that is fine. But if you're building a product, you need to be product manager first, understanding the product, understanding what people need, understanding what you would make a good product, and think, and tech should be secondary, and your code should solve that problem, not the other way around, where you just because you can build it, you build it. Don't do that. I have learned it the hard way. So yeah, so let's take my OSS minimalist launch at that point. So the problem that I was trying to solve was people use their phone for quite a long time. I did some research. Turns out that the phone design, icon colors, and all are specifically designed so that you get hooked to it. To give an example, when you open Instagram, you get a good feeling, endorphins in your head, and your endorphins get connected to the Instagram icon because it's colorful. You get connected to it, so automatically see it, and your brain kind of automatically clicks on that. So what I did was, my app does not have any icons, right? It has just names. It's much more difficult for the brain to associate with endorphins and good feeling with the text, right? So this is one of the things, right? And then, so this is one of the problems that you have to see a problem that way. Be a product manager first, and realize that developing an app. The code part of it is probably the easiest part and 50% of the job, because when you're writing code, 2 plus 2 will always be 4, right? If you write a piece of code, you'll always give that. But when you're building a product, understanding why users are not downloading, why you're not getting the revenue, 2 plus 2 is probably never equal to 4. There are so many variables associated with it. So yeah.
So like as you mentioned, right, just before this podcast, as you were having discussion, you said that you did everything from websites to assets to marketing to everything, right? So how was that whole experience, and what challenges did you face into independently developing and publishing all these apps?
Yeah, so like to tell everyone that it took me a lot of years to actually get good at it. So you have to understand, I've been making apps for almost 9 to 10 years right now, and I built my first product back in 2016. So that's what, for 7 years, 7-8 years, right? 7-8 years almost. So initially I concentrated on building the app. I knew how to build it. I even learned a bit of Spanish, because for some reason a lot of my users were Spanish. I understood a little bit of it. Now ChatGPT and Google Translate helps. I took it step by step, right? Understanding how building my first app that I built, I did not worry about marketing. I did not worry about everything. I did not worry about it. And I always learned Photoshop back in college because of building posters and everything. And I learned it. And so I looked at other apps, how they are building it, what actually build. Just posting a screenshot as this one will never work. You need to write good, you need to make it attractive. What makes a good icon? Researching into it, what makes a good icon? What is attractive? Your icon should tell a story. UX is actually a good thing, that a lot of research papers, a lot of things, and YouTube videos to actually understand the market is really important. What colors work? For example, a good thing to know is, if you're building a food product, never use the color blue, because blue is the worst color to use in food. This is something that you realize, that everything has an association. That is why every McDonald's, Burger King uses yellow, because you associate food with yellow, something like that. So you need to spend a lot of time understanding that. Secondly, you learn in the process, right? This is the first time I'm learning marketing right now, but I didn't knew that before. So a lot of good resources. Reddit is very helpful. I post questions Reddit, people come and contact me. I know people, I ask them. A couple of my friends are in marketing, I help them out. You cannot learn it in one go, so it takes time. So I like to say that it takes time, it takes effort, and it is possible to do, because with the way tech works, so a lot of the things after the initial setup, like marketing and everything, is all almost in autopilot mode. You do not have to continuously be associated with it, right? So yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So for the folks like who are wanting to start their journey as an app developer, like what would be the learning path that you would suggest for them? Like you can say step by step, like how to start off with, and the way ahead.
Yeah, so things is the first thing that many people don't really, just because if you mention in your description it is built by a solo developer, you will get like it's something like a, but it is good in tech, but your users do not care about it. User, you have to, just because you are a solo developer, you build everything by yourself, you cannot give them a subpar product. That is something that you need to, and that applies when you're building games or building apps. That is rudimentary. So you, just because you are a solo app, your UI, if it looks old, it doesn't looks material 3 design language and everything, you would not get, users, and you cannot tell those users, tell that, oh, I'm just a solo developer, I cannot do all this. Your product will fail, right? So first thing I would say, look at different apps. If you have an idea in mind, right, look at other competitors in your market, right? So if there are way too many competitors, you need to do an extremely good job at par with them. Your pricing should be lower. You will be the customer support, you will have customer support line, you should have everything set up and everything. And if you do not see any competitor, it's probably is that either you're very lucky or people have tried it and the business has failed. So first about it, see your competitors, see what they're doing. And the one good thing is, they find about the person who made it and see if the person has given any interviews or not. They probably had talked about the problem that they face. They probably would have talked about the revenue that brings in. Just do some experiment and do some research into it. See what makes a good UI is important. People work on back end, people, and they do not, but you don't realize UI is what is the most important thing, right? You know, how your app looks, how your app feels, how many clicks it takes to reach to a particular point, right? If it takes, say in a mood tracker, if it takes 5 clicks to get a mood, it may be a good UI, but the user experience is bad. It should be very fast, because mood within that 5 clicks, your mood may change, right? So a lot of things to do, but yeah. So probably if you're building something, learn all these aspects. Learn in early access mode, in and both Android and iOS have early access mode. Get users in. One good thing about India is it's very easy to get users here, because installation number of users are very high. Understand their feedback, have a feedback channel like Discord or Telegram or Slack, and where people can join and give you feedback. That has been extremely helpful. And then just realize it will take time, but it is possible. If I can do it, anyone can.
Wow. So like yep, so now we come back to the very important, interesting part, rather, I'll say, Myntra. Like, how did Myntra happen? Like, from Mutual Mobile to Myntra, how did Myntra happen?
Yeah. So Mutual Mobile. So I've been there for 5 years, but I think by the 5th year, I realized that I was not learning as much, and I think I had reached a ceiling. It was not a fault of the company. That is what the company's scope was, and I think I wanted to grow beyond the scope, right? And my colleagues there, my boss, my manager, everything was understanding of it. They realized that, yeah, this is a problem. It's complete understanding that they're very helpful. They also said that if you need help and you need suggestions and all, they're happy to help out. So that's when Myntra happened. I think it was back in 2021 when the market was as a boom. So I had probably when I was interviewing Myntra, I had like probably 6 or 7 offers by the time. But Myntra was the best company, and also I joined Myntra because the interview experience was amazing. Like my first interview with them, it was a conversational experience. It was something that I really enjoyed. And then the second round as well, it was more conversational. Third round with my manager was amazingly fun interview to have with. We talked very chill, and then the HR round was also pretty good. So overall experience was good. It was via a third party company that I would like to interview with them, and then it happened over. I got an offer within 2 weeks, and then yeah, it was a good experience. And I've been using Myntra since forever, and I thought, and also they use React Native as a technology, which is the most popular technology used in India to make apps, because number of iOS users are less. So it makes sense to not have a dedicated iOS team. And I wanted to get into React Native. I learned React Native a little bit, but I wanted to get into it. And I knew that Myntra has one thing that Mutual Mobile at that point did not: scale. Myntra has hundreds and millions of users. I wanted to work at that scale and see what having hundreds of millions of users problems bring. So that is where I decided to join Myntra, and it has been an amazingly good experience.
Okay, so yeah, as you mentioned, right, about your interview experience, we'd like to know more for the audience. If you could just go deeper into the interview experience and tell them what happened in the whole process, step by step.
Okay, so the Myntra approach was very straightforward, right? So like I mentioned, I never solve lead code. I do not like lead code. I do not like the way of solving it. I never did it. I just don't enjoy it. I believe that I'm good at problem solving. If it's a problem that is solved, there are DSA problems that you would not be able to solve unless you know it. You can. There are, like, the rabbit and hare problem. So many problems are there that you have to know it. Otherwise, I do not like that. I do not. I feel that it's a memorization thing and something that I never was. I was actually good at it, but did not enjoy it. So I'll never, as a principal, I do not do lead code. I used to do back in college, but not anymore. I realize if you give me a problem, I will be able to solve it if it's a solvable one. If it's, and Myntra has been really good at it. They give me a difficult problem, but there's a problem that is solvable via conversation. But like when you are working at a company, right, you do not get a problem and shoved into a corner of the room and I'll figure it out and we'll talk about it. That doesn't work that way. In real world as well, when you're given a problem to solve, you have other engineers to talk to, you have your product manager, you have engineering manager to talk to. So your interview should also signify that, and that is how it went with Myntra. We got a problem, it was a difficult problem, and then we had a conversation and I came up with a solution by the end. I even was able to solve the write the code and have a proper solution to it, right? So it was a really good experience. Second round as well, it was 2 questions. The first question I was able to solve it. Second question I probably reached half of it, like I mentioned, but the approach was good. He was very happy with it. Then came similar experience as before. And then my third round was a system designs round, something that I think I'm good at because I've been building systems from the ground up for quite some time now. He was very happy with the work. He was very happy with the approach that I took. So one thing I'd like to say in system designs is it's fine to take a different route that maybe than what the interviewer is expecting. So if you take that a particular route, say a particular way of solving it, you should have a definite reason for it. Why? Right? It's fine to contradict, but one thing that I see that interviewers, candidates are afraid to go against the interviewer, but a good interviewer would be happy to do that. If you are, if the interviewer says something that you're not agreeing with, give a counterpoint, but make sure that your counterpoint has enough weight to it. That and a good, if you present, don't do not be rude about it, but say that okay, I see your problem, I see the way that you're approaching. Let's but I think this will work better because of these use cases and everything. A good interviewer would actually see it as a plus point. So everything that you do should have a reasoning behind it. And then came my engineering my manager round. It was fun. It was more conversational again, and then came the HR round, which was more HR oriented. And for some reason, the engineering lead, the architect of the team, wanted to interact with me. He was very happy with me, with how the interview went, and then overall, it was it was a lot of interviews over a short period of time, but it worked out well. So yeah.
Great. So how does a typical day look like for you in Myntra?
Yeah. So generally, so right now we are a mix of hybrid solution where I go to office 3 days a week and work from home. So for example, today I am working from home. So generally my work, it starts stand up. Say it does not start to stand. It started 11, probably 11:30. I understand. So I'm very very organized on how things work. I have written, I jot things down. I have post-it notes everywhere because I like to things everything organized, and I see what needs to be done today and have a stand up at 12. And then I'll have a stand up at 12. I give them the updates and this what needs to be done. Since I am the technical lead at the company, I also make sure I interact with other developers as well throughout the day. The problem that I'm working on as well, I'll be working on that. I also work on other teams. I also am the contact person for product managers as well. And then so a lot of things happens. It's not fixed on a particular day. Things come up randomly. That's one of the things of being a tech lead. Randomly things will come up, and you have to according to it is one of the skill that you should technically have. Saying down at a leadership role, if you say that things I should not manage, that's not an excuse that you can give anymore. So that happens, but it's fun. I enjoy it. And then the work day ends after doing so. Basically, it involves writing code. Probably 50% my work involves 50% design and 50% writing code. So I'll do the designing. I'll be approving other people's designs, approving their code, interacting with my engineering manager, working internally with product manager, taking care where things are necessary, where I need to take the responsibility. And then my day ends around 5, 6, 7 or something like that. Nothing fixed as such. We do not have fixed times. Like you need to clock in, clock out. As long as you get the work done, I would say one of the things about advantage of working in Myntra is they do not care about times as such. Like, you have to be at office at 9 and go at 10. If you get the work done, they're more than happy, and that's something that I really appreciate. And yeah.
So as you mentioned, so I'd just like to know, of curious, like what all things you take care of. Like if you talk about Myntra app, right? So what are
Mm.
those areas that you specialize, or you can say that come into your forte?
Okay, so I am a UI first guy. I build on building good UI, so I'm good at, say, animations. I'm good at building UIs fast. I can build UIs extremely fast. I can look at a UI that I get design that comes in Figma, and I can structure in my head how to actually go ahead with it, understanding all the problems. So when I joined. I was a lot of my time has been work on the merchandising team. Though that team basically takes care of the homepage and all those pages. I also worked on the native part of the code because I have a native background, notifications and everything as such. And I also right now work in the product team, which means that when you click on a product, what happens? I recently joined that team and I am working on that. So that is what I switched over. Basically, the right now a good UI experience. So other than UI, you must be thinking just building UI is not the case. You have to understand performance. You have to understand why you're building it. Just because you can build a UI doesn't mean that's enough. You have to, every time a release goes, your new feature has to see that your performance is not impacted. You have to make sure there's backwards compatibility. You have to, and there's also underlying tech as well that happens. So yeah, that's what it is on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
So like since you are working on, you work with building on such a, you can say, an app for a large scale of fashion e-commerce industry,
Mm.
right? So
Mm.
how do you ensure, like as you talked about UI and UX, right, those being the
Mm.
very core things when it
Mm.
comes to app, because the attention span of users is very very less. You
Mm.
have to ensure that you are captivating their attention and keeping them hooked into the app. So
Mm.
how do you, as you can say a lead for the whole thing, right, ensure that you are always at par with the competitors? Because everyone else will, right, if something comes
Mm.
into tech, everyone runs very very
Mm.
fast to make sure that that is there in their app first and
Yeah,
their
yeah,
app
yeah.
becomes the best. So how do you always be updated with the trends that happen, and how do you ensure that that is integrated into the app first?
Yeah, yeah, got it. So a lot of the part that you mentioned is done by the product team, right? So I'll tell you what. So product team is, so Myntra. Another thing is also extremely data driven, right? Every action and every feature that they launched is driven by data. Okay, this is bringing this much revenue or something like that. And that is take, and as engineers, we make sure that as much data that we can cover via analytics, everything is covered. But product then will look at those data and make their own judgment of it. There's data science teams which make sense of the data. Then the product will then talk to the UX. So this is not just specific to Myntra as well. This is probably the same guidelines that work across the entire market. Your product team will then see that this is what is causing it, and they will talk to the user experience team, and they will come up with a UI that works. And that is when we come in here, where we see the feasibility of it. Just because this work doesn't mean that it can be technically feasible, right? We have to make sure that we give the best possible. We have to keep a lot of things in mind. We have to give the best possible solution in the least amount of time that covers as many check marks as possible. And so you, as engineers, we as you get more experience, balance is extremely important. You will know that you can never get a perfect solution. You will never get something. You will just keep on engineering the solution and all. So you have to find a balance where you're okay to make say a small adjustment on the tech side so that the product is okay with it, right? So you must be thinking, oh, this is a little bit unoptimized, but you need to see that optimization, is it fine considering the product requirement, right? So you need to think that. So for example, a lot of users would be like, oh, we should always go for login and on this one. That does not work in real world, right? In real world, an external factor that comes into play is feasibility of it. Just because the solution is on square, it can be an on square solution, and it's fine as long as it gives a perfect solution. You should know the best solution, but you should also be willing to make adjustment to the perfect solution according to the other factors that come into the play. That is an extremely good important skill that you should have as you go ahead in your career. So yeah.
Right. So as we're talking about the tech evolution, there has been a AI evolution as well in the last couple of years,
Hmm.
and a lot of things have come up with AI. A lot of industries have been impacted in good and bad ways. Rather, we say for us, like it is like we say that AI complements the things that you do rather than
Mm-hmm.
replacing you, right? So how has AI transformed the landscape for fashion e-commerce, and how have you guys implemented that
Hmm.
for your benefit in the whole user experience or the
Hmm.
users? You can say journey in the app.
Yeah, so one of the features that Myntra have right now is called the My Fashion GPT. Two places that I would like to add that the Five Fashion GPT. What it does is it uses this AI, and you can type like, I'm going out on a friend's birthday, suggest me an outfit, and they'll be able to suggest it. So previously, so it's an added paradigm and something that we build up. That's on the Myntra build up very fast, and uh, so instead of just so right now Myntra is not just a way that you can buy stuff, it can also now recommend you stuff that what you can wear, and it recommends you, right? So Myntra is moving from, the recommendation has gotten better. Even the search, if you type on search, right, search has gotten better, and we are building this AI modules, and also we have the DS team. They are also keeping track of it, and I think they are also bringing this they're making sure that we get a lot of data, right? Their data is now trainable and all. So at the end, so we are still at a very nascent stage. We are trying out and everything. We see the advantages that it has from e-commerce platform, and Myntra has been doing it. The fashion GPT has been working well. I use it myself as well, and overall, yeah, and that is what they're doing. We're still very nascent, and we're still figuring out what would work in our advantage, and how we can solve existing problems that we have using AI. And I think it's a long game. It's a long. I see AI as a overall good, and you can come up with smaller solutions, but big problems to solve it will take time. Especially with the company that is almost what, 15 years old right now, it takes time to build such a new technology which has so much legacy technology and so much legacy data. You just cannot like flip a switch and come into it. But I'm happy to see that Myntra is actually exploring it, so it's good.
Right. So on the similar note, like any chances of a try on feature, because a lot of times like we are still confused, right? How would that uh, clothing look on us? So like any chances or any like you guys are working on something of that sort, like you could just see
uh
a thing and you can
Yeah,
just
so I
see how it
cannot
looks
all
like.
talk about, I cannot talk about the internal stuff, but we always have conversations on that. We actually have a virtual try-on feature, right? We have a virtual try-on. We have, you can check out makeup and all. So this kind of solutions have existed for quite some time on the Myntra app as well. You can actually see. You have to understand all these problems are not just related to AI. See, AI has actually solved the problems of finding. You can see in this video as well, edge detection and all is extremely fine. The problem has been solved. AI makes it better. In the same way, we already have virtual try-on for quite some time. We're probably the first one who actually did it, right? And then we also have trying on. So we started selling beauty products. We have trying out the makeup, how it will look on you. The thing that AI does is it will make it better, the age detection and
Correct.
everything and all. And I think that is what they are trying to do. So we know that that virtual try-on probably will be made better with AI. It works well, but I think with AI it will get better. So yeah.
So maybe just recommend the whole outfit. Like you just choose the t-shirt and it gives everything like
Yeah,
shoes,
it
belts,
works
or
right now. Yeah, it works right now.
okay.
If
On the
if
map,
you go in
check.
the yeah, in the Myntra app, that is what it is. So if you select, you can actually mention what kind of outfit you want, or you can select a particular shirt and it'll tell you what outfit goes based on what scenario. So if you say, if you're going just casually and you want to say you want like the Korean look is right now very popular right now, that beige,
Yep.
chill out and low that. So you can tell them and it'll recommend it to you. So it has been working. We're improving on it. We're improving on it, and it works. And it works. Yeah.
Great. So like yeah, moving like over towards the second last segment is the networking and hackathons, and I believe you have been part of
Mm.
quite a few
Mm.
hackathons and bagged the winning position, right? So how
Mhm, yeah.
important you would say these competitions or hackathons are in the life of a developer?
See, the thing is, hackathons solve, at least from a tech point of view, does one thing, right? So it gives you an open field. Say when you're working, say when I'm working at Myntra right now, it's such a huge code base with so many features, and you're so busy with the day-to-day work. It's that you are never able to go like let's do something crazy, right? But hackathon makes it possible. Like you can work on such an existing code base with such a and that can be applicable for any company, and you get access to the APIs and build anything, right? That's an extremely good fun. So I like this just open approach to solving a problem. I loved it, and that is why I build my own apps. And Myntra builds the same thing, building something of your own with an existing such huge data. And another thing from a career point of view is it's extremely helpful in the sense that it gives you visibility. One of the major things about tech, and when I work in a big company, especially in a big company, that was not a problem when I worked in my previous company. It was 60 people team. Everyone knew me. I didn't have to advocate. But when you're working in a bigger team, you have to advocate for yourself. There are limited promotions, there are limited number of hikes that you can get unless you advocate. You may be doing amazing work, but your manager probably has to look at 10 other people, and you need to advocate for yourself. And one good way advocating is increasing visibility. And when you are going such a platform, and you are, even if you're not winning, for presenting, you get a visibility that you would not get, that you would not just get by just answering in stand-ups and getting the work that is expected from you. So visibility in a company is visibility in your team is extremely important. You need to advocate for it. That's something a lot of engineers today don't. They just feel that they'll get the work done, that should be enough. And probably if everyone has one manager, probably it will, but that isn't how real world works. Your manager is extremely busy and he has multiple people to look into. So advocating for your organ visibly, and hackathon is a perfect way of getting that visibility that is needed. So yeah.
Right. So talking about evolution and constant changes, right? I guess tech world or tech industry is known for that. Constantly something or else will keep on changing. Something viral will come up, something will go down, right? So with so many changes that are happening in the whole tech domain, right? How do you prioritize learning and upskilling into your whole professional career? And I think this is a very important question, because a lot of people, like, once they get into the professional era phase, right, like everything fades off, they don't have time. But how do you prioritize that in the whole life? And like, do you have any particular learning strategy that has been effective for you?
So if you are not adapting and improving, you will be irrelevant. And the matter of irrelevancy has the time has decreased, right? I'll tell you my career. When I started out, I was working in Java, right? Within 1 year, we moved to Kotlin, right? Within 1 year, we had another thing called React Native. Within 6 months, we had Flutter, right? And right now, right now, Kotlin has moved to Jetpack Compose. This is every year my career and my mobile tech has completely and drastically changed. The frameworks have changed. Your problem solving skills and all don't, right? That is fine, right? But the 50% should be on understanding how to solve a problem. 50% should be the tools that you're working with, right? It changes. If you look at iOS, they had Objective-C, then they moved to Swift, and they moved from UI toolkit to Swift UI. Web, with so many web frameworks, React Native keeps on changing. React, you have React Native, you have React Native Web, you have Flutter Web, Flutter Desktop. So many things keep on changing. So what I would suggest is what I do. So like I mentioned, all the 3 apps that I built was to learn, right? The first one, to learn Android development, how to build a product from and beyond the to-do. The second app that I built on how to build a professional app that is scalable and everything. And my third app that I built was to learn Jetpack Compose, which is a new UI framework in Android. So what has worked for me always is to build something, right? It may not work for everyone because it's a much more hands-on and effort-taking process. So whenever things get traction, I did not pick up Jetpack. Jetpack Compose has been out for 1.5 years. I did not pick up initially. I realized that Jetpack Compose is the future right now. That is what they're promoting. That's when I picked it up. And so I'm a little bit late to the party always, but it's fine. You don't have to be in the cutting edge all the time. It's fine to be 1 year behind. React Native is also changing, and I plan to pick up React Native next with turbo modules and everything. And then Kotlin multi-platform again came up. So I was working on that as well. So that will work for me. For you, other ways of doing that is, I believe that learning can only work best when you're building something. You cannot look at documentation. You cannot look at YouTube videos and learn unless you're building something. Let it be a full-fledged product or just a normal test product. Unless you're building something, you will. I don't think it's as effective, right? YouTube videos can only help so much. The Udemy courses can only help so much. Text Medium post can only help so much. Unless you're taking all of that and actually building it, I don't think it will help. And you should be doing that with any new technology and anything that comes up and building. Just get started. Just get dirty with the code. And I think many people don't do that. You have to.
Right. So you mentioned like a lot of things change, right? The technologies change, the frameworks
Mm.
change, but the underlying concepts remain the same, right? So what
Mm.
foundational skills do you believe that are very essential or crucial for the students, and they should focus on those in the college years, or you can say the early college years, so that
Mm.
those become a very, you can say, solid basis for them to learn things on top of it.
Yeah, so one thing that a lot of engineers that I have talked to has something called tunnel vision. Okay, I'll tell you what it means. It means that if I give you a problem, they just take one aspect and just keep going straight on that, right? But when you're working on real world problems, right, real world products, and there are so many factors, right? So what I would recommend you should be getting good at is, given a particular problem, like, let's build this. Say you get say you're working an app, for example, right? And then your product manager comes and tells you, we are building this new page in our app. Your app should not, you should not just worry about, oh, how we'll place this, no, it should be about what are the existing limitations. You should be, I think if you watch Sherlock, they have something called a mind map is
Right.
actually a good way of looking at it. It should not be linear structure. It should be a tree like structure and a graph like structure, or mentally you should be able to do it. And if mentally doesn't help, take pen and paper and realize what can lead to what how to build something. And you should be able to do that pretty soon, and you should be able to keep context of multiple things in the background, right? Say your build a new feature, right? And that has a dependent. While building in, you need to make change only on one backend service, right? But you also have to keep in mind that this backend service has dependence on 7 others, right? So when you're building something, you have to keep that in mind. You have to keep backend compatibility in mind. It should come naturally at this point. It's fine to take time. People think that getting things done fast is the best thing. I have been told in my present company that you work too fast, you need to slow it down a little bit. Because working fast is not, it's fine to take your time and deliver a good product, but rather than doing it fast. But it's more, it's better to be reliable than fast. So take a so to summarize, you should be able to, given a problem, you should be able to make a mind map and understand the whole concept. Don't get tunnel vision to a particular problem, and then if you like a tunnel vision approach, go straight forward in some way, backtrack it and take a different approach. Unless, and as you get more senior and you get more experience, this technically should come naturally, but it also depends on your work, where I'm working. Where I've been working has been extremely advantageous for me, but this is something that you definitely need to learn.
Right. So, well, like, just as we close this whole thing, like, what final piece
Hmm.
of advice would you offer to students as they transition from the academia to the professional tech world?
Couple of things. So see, how to, there are a lot of things that are on the internet that tells you how to solve a problem and all. Couple of things that personally has helped me was being reliable. I mentioned it a little bit some time back as well. Being reliable is probably the best thing that you can do. Your manager, if you consistently deliver on your stuff, it can be a little bit, you take your time. For example, say you get a new task, right? And your manager says that you should be able to do it in 5 days, right? But you say, no, I'll take it in 7 days, and you deliver it on the seventh day or even before that, and you do consistently do it. It is much better than someone who gets a task and says that, given 5 days, and some days sometimes you will do it in 3, and some days you will do it in 7. No, don't be that person. Be, if you are reliable, if a new problem comes up, your manager and people at the work, it should be able to say, all right, let's get this XYZ person, he gets things done. If you get things done, if you makes other people's life easier, your career would work great, right? That is one of the be reliable, make other people's life easier, it should work. So that is the biggest tip that I can give. That is an under that I don't think people talk about much. Other thing, upskilling and all, you already know how, you guys already know how to do it. But be that. Secondly, what I would say, be a fun, jolly person to be around with, right? I'm not saying to be friends with everyone. It's fine, but a person should be willing to come and talk to you, and should be happy to, like, let's go and talk. You should be a jolly person to talk with. You should be able, people should be able to have a good time with you. If you are in movies they say show users who are like, good engineers, always sitting in the corner and are not talking to anyone, and somehow they are the grandmasters in the company. It doesn't work like that in real life. It just doesn't. You have to make sure that you are an approachable person. People should be, you should be a fun person, you should be a jolly person. You should, people should be happy to, they invite you to things that they're going to, they should be happy to take you out on drinks, they should be happy to take you out on lunch, dinner, and in that way. So you should have a very friendly persona. These two will help you a lot. It has helped me a lot. I consider myself a very friendly person, and that has helped me. I don't do it because of it, I'm just friendly in general. But that has helped, that helped me in a career as a secondary thing. But anyway, I think this should come naturally. Be a fun and a jolly person to be around. Don't be that, I'm just engineer, I'm not going to talk to anyone. It doesn't help in your career now.
Wow, well, and that's a wrap on today's enlightening conversation with Suchandrim. And thank you so much for sharing your
Yeah.
incredible journey and invaluable advice with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your time with us, Suchandrim.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Right, and to listeners, right, thank you for tuning in. And remember, we'll be back again with yet another podcast with someone amazing person from this industry to share his journey with you and how they have reached those levels, milestones, and what things they have done, or you can say put in place, so that you can take advices from them and follow a similar path. So until next time, keep pushing the boundaries, and we'll meet you in the next podcast. See you. Bye bye. Take care and have a good day.